Governor, here we are again. Round two.
Round two.
Okay. I want to take a look back before we look ahead. So taking a look back, I've heard you say in the last couple days that you didn't campaign the way you wanted to. Can you be specific? Where did it go wrong?
The campaign played it too safe in a lot of ways. As you know, because you were covering the race, everyone said we were way ahead, and the campaign played it too safe. That was a mistake. I take responsibility for that. We didn't do enough work reaching out to younger voters, and there was an explosion of young voters in this election that literally flipped the model, and that's why the polls were wrong. And I didn't do enough work reaching out to those younger voters, especially on social media. Learned my lesson, and it won't happen again.
I want to talk about the polls for a second. Pix 11 in the Emerson College poll probably was the closest. It had Mamdani winning in the final round. You called it an outlier. You said that the poll wasn't accurate, and you dismissed polls that had you tightening. And I say this respectfully, was it arrogance?
No, it was an outlier. That was one poll that said that versus 30 that said something else. That's why it was an outlier. Now, it was also wrong because he won in a way that Emerson didn't predict either. Nobody predicted the explosion of under 30 voters, which was of historic proportion there.
So how do you plan to change the way you campaign? In the last couple of weeks, people were saying Mamdani was able to campaign in a way that folks will study and teach. Looking at that model of how he campaigned, are you taking some of what he did now?
Look, he used social media very effectively. He's an actor, his family is in the film business, and he used that medium well. That's great as a tactic, except substance matters, right? And the ability to actually do what you say you're going to do matters. And the ability to be effective matters. The ability to manage matters. Experience matters. He has great slogans, but none of it will change anything that you see in this city.
But this is different for you. You just took the train here. You're not wearing a suit and tie. Are we going to see a different Andrew Cuomo to attract the voter you're talking about, that youthful voter that has now registered and will vote again in November?
Well, look, I've run a lot of campaigns. I've lost campaigns. I've won campaigns. So I'm campaigning the way I've always campaigned. The aberration was what I did in the primary, where I played it safe. I was not aggressive enough, uncharacteristically. So I'm going to run my race this year the way I feel comfortable, and that is meeting New Yorkers and talking to New Yorkers and connecting with New Yorkers
On
directly.
Tuesday, President Trump was asked about this very race, and he said, he seems like he could win it, meaning you. And then he went on to say that your opponent is a communist. What did you think of what the president had to say about you? Do you want his support?
No, the president is a Republican, but I'm a Democrat. The president calls him a communist. He's a socialist. But this has been going on for a long time, Dan. This has been an internal fight within the Democratic Party. And I have been fighting this socialist theory for many, many years. They are anti-business. They're anti-corporation, which means they're anti-job. You were there when I had Amazon set up to build a national headquarters in Queens. 25,000 new jobs. And the socialists stopped it. You were there when they were arguing to defund the police and cut the police. And I argued against it, and I added police on the state side to compensate. This has been going on for years. I think a socialist theory doesn't work for New York. How do you have a socialist city in a capitalist nation?
But about Trump, he said you could win it rather than Eric Adams. So he didn't support the person that you say that he has a relationship with.
Well, look, when Eric Adams had charges brought against him, It is the president who directly intervened and had the charges dropped because Eric Adams became very cooperative with Donald Trump. I mean, that's a fact. I think what he was saying is his political analysis of the race, because he's a New Yorker, his political analysis was that I have a strong chance to beat what he calls a communist. Actually, in my opinion, not a communist, he's a socialist, but he says communist socialist. What's the difference?
Yeah, let me talk about this idea of the September poll. And meaning if it's you, Jim Walden, Eric Adams, whoever's not the front runner should drop out. Eric Adams, I spoke to him about this. He said he has a master's in public policy, but a PhD in Cuomo, and that this was 100% fabricated by you, and that you will not drop out if you're not the front runner. What is your response?
It's a lie. It's a lie.
So you will...
And it's not his first one. But it's very simple to find out. Call Jim Walden, who initiated the idea, and say, is it your idea or did Cuomo give you the idea, right? Just find the truth.
Did you coordinate at all with Jim Walden?
No.
Do you want Jim Walden to drop out?
It was a lie. And if you make a phone call, you will find out.
I have Jim Walden, I'm interviewing him tomorrow, but do you want Jim Walden to drop out of the race since he is polling around 1%?
We want the strongest candidate because Zohran is an existential threat to New York City. He's an existential threat to the economy, to public safety, and Eric Adams agrees with that. I agree with that. So we need the strongest candidate to run against him.
Eric Adams said to me that he 100% is not dropping out of the race if he's not the front runner in this poll. So do you think, and you said you will, right? You will if it's not you.
Yes, I will.
So how do you, if he doesn't and you are the front runner, how do you garner enough votes? Do you think you pull from each other and it automatically secures a Mamdani win?
Well, look, if you're saying that Adams says even though he's the weaker candidate, he won't drop out, then he may as well endorse Zohran Mamdani and get it over with, right? Because then he would just be a spoiler and he would be guaranteeing the assemblyman's election. And if he wants to support the assemblyman, let him just support the assemblyman.
He said that you also called him and texted him and had these conversations, Eric Adams, to drop out of the race. Did you at any point from primary night until today speak to Eric Adams?
No, I said the strongest candidate should go forward.
You spoke to him?
We texted with him. And the strongest candidate should go forward. And everybody agrees with that. If you divide the vote, he's going to win. And the primary was all about the socialists versus the moderates, right? Eric and I were the moderates. Eric dropped out of the primary because he was not competitive with Democrats. And then it was the socialists versus me. And they ran 6 socialists against Cuomo, the moderate. All my life I was too liberal. Now, according to the socialists, I'm a moderate, which is a bad thing. But Eric Adams is a moderate. They call, I'm a moderate. But we both agree Zohran would be bad for the city.
So how do you look at this moving towards November, since the moderates you're talking about and some of the Brooklyn Democrats, some of the unions that endorsed you have already moved on? They've moved on to Mamdani, DC 37, Brooklyn Democrats. How do you now pull support when you're losing it?
You will have many of the institutions that do business with the city supporting Zohran because he is the odds-on favorite. But he's running on the Democratic line, but he's not a Democrat. He is a socialist. Not a communist, as the president says, but he is a socialist. I am a Democrat. I have been all my life. My father was before me. So I'm a Democrat.
Which is why some might say you lost. You lost the Democratic line. And you're a Democrat who has always said that you should support the Democrat. He's on the ballot as a Democrat. You're on the ballot as an independent. Is there something to say about the Democratic Party then looking at that?
The Democratic vote in this primary was disproportionately young and socialist. and they're running a socialist on the Democratic Party. That's what is happening.
Let's talk about affordability, because this is what Mamdani really won on and led on. Is there anything that he lays out that you look at and say, okay, that can work, and here's how I'll implement it? Because you had some ideas, but they didn't catch on.
He has great slogans, none of which are realistic, and none of which will do anything. Freeze the rent. That's not the answer. That's not how you're actually going to bring down rents. The answer is you have to build thousands of more housing units. The answer is you have a 1% vacancy rate, which means the landlord can charge whatever they want because there's no vacancy. The answer is build housing, or let developers build housing. Get the government out of the way. It takes 4 years to get a building permit. It can take 4 years to get a building permit in New York City. I built LaGuardia Airport in 4 years. It doesn't have to be.
But the question is about your bold ideas for affordability. Were they bold enough? They didn't catch on. His did. So in the next couple of weeks, before this September poll, how do you make somebody believe you can make New York City affordable?
Yeah, he's very good at slogans. That has nothing to do with actually plans that are going to make a difference in anybody's life. And if you really want your rent lowered, then just grabbing onto a slogan, you may as well be grabbing onto a cloud. It does nothing. And people really want solutions. They don't want to just have rhetoric in a campaign and another politician who made more promises and nothing happened. That's the difference.
And I want to end on this question about this poll, because it goes back to the very beginning and it's kind of full circle. Now that I've heard your plan for affordability, you said you didn't believe the polls. So why would you believe a poll in September?
No, I did believe in polls.
I mean, yeah, right, sorry. So when you look at the polls, and it had, why should anybody believe them now?
Well, first, data and research shouldn't just be discounted because it was wrong in one race. And it was wrong in my race because the turnout was historic and different than anything anyone ever saw, with the explosion of young voters under 30 years old. But forget predicting who's going to win a race, which is an art form. Just ask, who do you like between A and B? That's all.
That's a poll.
Well, you're not asking who's going to win the election. You don't have to assume how many young voters, old voters. Just who do you like, A or B? Ask 5,000 people, who do you like, A or B? That you can rely on.
And if you don't win that, and you drop out, who do you support?
If I am not the strongest candidate, I will not run. I will defer.
And who do you
let
support?
Eric Adams run.
Who do you support?
I'm going to be the strongest candidate, so I'm not going to get
But
there.
if you're not, okay.
If.